Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the P-LotPodcast. It is a winter wonderland out there. And we got the main man himself here with us as well, Michael Angelo. Michael, how we doing, dude?
We're doing good. You are right, John. It is a winter wonderland outside. It is a total blizzard. The essentially entire east coast of the country or middle to east coast of the country is in like a winter winter warning. That's what I was trying to say. We are getting snow though, whereas some other places are maybe getting ice, and that's not fun. But right now, it is sitting at probably like about 4 to 5 inches, and the snow is not even remotely letting up. So it is definitely it's definitely coming down out there. It is a full blown blizzard. It really makes you think that had the Eagles have been like normal as they were supposed to, or just not really stupid, we
I
could have
thought the
very
same
well
thing, dude. I
we
thought
could
the
have
same
very
exact
well
thing.
been tailgating or something in this blizzard, getting ready for a snowed conference championship game. Would have been like the Rams game on like steroids.
Steroids.
Like,
Yes.
yeah.
I thought the same exact thing, dude. I was like, wow, could you imagine, like, the snow would have started as soon as we started, like, parking our cars and
I
we'd be
guess it would
setting
have
up.
depended what time the game was. Because if the
Oh,
game's at
I
6,
would
lots
imagine
would not have been open
we would have
yet.
been the 3:30 game
I'm not so sure about that.
because the night game is they're not going to play an NFC Championship game somewhere at noon.
Well, no, it's either 3 or 6.
Oh no, we would have been the 3 o'clock game because we're an East Coast team. The Rams Seahawks are 6:30.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think, don't they alternate it? So I think it would have been the 6 o'clock. Um, Regardless, we are looking at a blizzard. Pretty cool. Always fun when you're not, outside trying to shovel it or trying to go anywhere. But when you're inside, it's pretty cool. But we do have a little slew of things to talk about today ahead of the conference championships. Before we get into the games, though, we wanted to touch on a couple of the winter sports and then talk about a little of the Eagles offensive coordinator search and coaching general speak. Kick us off with some breaking news before we get into the winter sports. Jonathan Gannon, congratulations, the next defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. So shout out Gannon. But yeah, let's open it up with the winter sports. Who do you want to start with the Flyers? I guess.
Yeah, we can start with the Flyers. I don't know what to make of the Flyers. They had an interesting week. They beat one of the top teams in hockey in the Las Vegas Golden Knights
Yep.
after this like brutal 2 week stretch of getting blown out in every game, giving up
Yeah, they were
five,
playing
six,
very bad.
7 goals, playing some just really atrocious defense. I know the goaltending was not good. I'm not going to defend saying the goalies played well and the defense was bad, but Michael, I'm talking like brutal turnovers, like the back check was just horrible. Like,
It's a team effort for them
yes, it was just
being bad.
really bad. It looked
Um,
like, and then the after they beat the Golden Knights, then the Flyers had one of the worst choke job losses. Like this, like they one of the worst choke job losses I've seen to the Utah Mammoth. Which funny enough, the other one I saw recently, couple like I guess a year or two back, was when the Sharks were playing the Golden Knights and they missed a wide open net twice. Garnet Hathaway had a wide open net. He's skating super like he doesn't. He's hesitating to shoot the puck against a wide open net. He
Empty
turns
net,
it
like not just open, like there's no goalie, empty net.
empty net. and he gets his pocket picked. Mammoth score the tying goal, then they win in overtime.
Yeah, the Flyers are just annoying at the moment.
Well, no, let me finish. Let me just finish, then we can kind of talk about it. Then the other night they blow out the best team in hockey, the Colorado Avalanche, 7-3. Owen Tippett has a hat trick, and the announcer has a meltdown. Now, if you've heard the clip of their announcer,
Yeah.
has a meltdown questioning. He's like, I can't believe I'm hearing "Let's Go Flyers" chants. Which, shout out to Flyers fans for, one, going to that game, two, I guess just being passionate there. Just like having the passion and to cheer on the Flyers. Obviously, they're winning, and then the announcer just has a meltdown saying, I don't understand, if you move here, why you just would stop rooting for the Flyers and would just
Yeah, it was a very weird comment. It definitely felt wrong.
hurt.
It was like he was like attacking the city of Philadelphia like as a whole, which just if you're doing that, I assume bad things about your like morals and stuff. So like yeah, that's how I feel about that announcer. But the Flyers, like it was a very nice win against Colorado. It was very dominant. Tippett probably I would say probably having his best year as a Flyer. It's still like nothing stupendous, but like it's fine. Um, as a whole, you opened it with I don't know how to feel about the Flyers. You texted me that too, and I just think this is just going to be what they are. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to go through stretches where they look terrible, and they're going to look through some stretches where they string together nice games, and even against some good opponents as well, like they've been able to do against Vegas and Colorado. But the fact of the matter is I just think it's I don't know. I'm still really pessimistic on the whole organization at this point. I don't like Rick Tocchet. I don't think it was a good hire, and I think every game you kind of see that. I think just schematically and strategically, I think they're not being put in the best places to succeed, and I think that it just bleeds into everything else. How many everything about Michkov that comes from the Flyers like mouth is just annoying and frustrating because the one tweet that finally it really put it into perspective um, that it is really unfair that the expectations he is being held to because yes, he is supposed to be amazing. He's supposed to be the next coming, all this sort of stuff. And yes, he's having a down second year than what we thought he was going to have based on what he did his rookie year. But the fact of the matter is he came over 3 years earlier than or 2 years earlier than we expected him to based on his contract back over in Russia. So he was able to get here that much earlier. He's still only 20 years old. And to be kind of just giving him as much crap as he gets from the organization, from the coaching staff through like little sneak disses when you're complimenting other players by saying the things that you've criticized him for publicly. Like you publicly criticize him for coming into camp out of shape. You publicly criticize him for, you know, not playing a full complete game. But then when you're complimenting Christian Dvorak, you're like, oh, he came into camp in great shape and he plays a full. And it's like, what are you doing there? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you saying it like that? Are you just banking on the fact that he doesn't understand English, that hopefully he doesn't hear it? Like, what's going on there? Because it's ridiculous. It's very unfair and it's rude. And it's not good when you're a team that, you know, you don't have expectations. You're not supposed to be good. Frank Saravelli, I'll keep going back to his clip on the Snow the Goalie podcast where he really gets on the Flyers for wasting their time, really. If you're not picking in the top 6 to draft one of these 6 great players in this year's NHL entry draft, what are you doing? Because the truth is they're not a serious contender. They're not really a serious playoff contender. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but I don't know. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to actually be picking where they want to be picking. And, they said they won't sell off pieces for nothing. And they're currently sitting at the 15th overall, 15th overall before the lottery, 15th overall draft pick. And that's not good enough. Like that's not where you're supposed to be. You're on the, fringe of the playoffs, and that's where they've been for 10 years. And now they're on like the low. They used to be on the higher end of that where they'd make the playoffs more than they'd miss, and now they're on the lower end of that where they're going to miss more than they make. But the point is you're not getting any better as a team. And it's frustrating. You see all these things about Michkov played right wing in Russia and all growing up, and he had great success there, but they're very fixated on having him play the left wing. And it's like, it's very clear that his production's better on the other side, but they're trying to, again, fit a round peg into a square hole. And this is what you get. It's just constantly feels like they're doing the wrong things.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole. We got to play him on the left. I get it because of his handedness, but like they're doing stuff with Mitch Cobb that you would do in like junior hockey or the AHL, and then you try it out for a couple weeks, and you're like, okay, well, this isn't going to work, so let's just move him back to where he is. And then I do agree. Like, I mean, I'll go say this about Matvey is that should he be criticized for some things? Of course he should, just like any other player. But the success of the franchise really hinges on him being good or like a great like difference between being a good player and a great player. And it does feel like there's a certain how do I put this? There's a like Tocchet rather cut his nose to spite his face. And you have to question whether, did Danny Briere want to bring back David Shaw because he already knew the roster and they weren't really serious about it? Or was he overruled and they're like, no, we need to spend a lot of money on bringing in a new coach so people would want to buy tickets. Like I don't think like I don't know. Like that's
It feels like the Tocchet hire, like it does feel like it originated from a
Keith
Keith
Jones.
Jones sort of thing. And if Briere just didn't have as much say as he wanted to, or if he agreed with it, then it's like you're just as complicit, like you're bad too. Like I'm not giving you the benefit of the doubt if you thought that was a good hire.
Well,
Because
Danny Briere was the reason probably why Torts stepped down
right,
last
but
year.
like if you, I don't know, like if you had Torts step down and you were in agreement that the next coach should be Rick Tocchet, like that's not good. You know what I mean? Like you went from someone that was horrible and like really a piece of garbage to someone that's also really bad, maybe worse, but maybe a little bit less of an asshole, maybe. So like you're not getting anywhere. You're not moving forward. You're not getting the team any better. Like Tortorella was here to be like the culture changer and get these guys' heads screwed on straight. And like that backfired times a million. And now you have Tocchet in here who's like supposed to be the players coach guy and is kind of been trashing your best player all season and or your most important player to the franchise all season and hasn't done enough otherwise for me to be excited or excuse it. And I think you're just every time something happens, it's one step forward, two steps back with them, and it's so agonizing.
I do think though to a certain extent
Like
that
trading for Trevor Zegras, awesome, but then you sign Dvorak to a 5-year extension, and it's like, what in the hell are we doing? What's going on? Why? Why are we doing this?
but it's kind of what's funny is we want the Flyers to tank. I guess we say the word tank. In other words, let's just intentionally see. I don't think tanking is you're intentionally losing games. To me, tanking is like we need to give Denver Barkey minutes. We need to give
They needed. They're too late at this point. They need to get rid
Matt
of the
as many minutes as possible. We need to give.
right.
If you look at the Blackhawks, for example, right? I pulled up when you were going off. I pulled up Bedard's numbers, and like another 18-year-old hockey player that came, basically skipped the AHL and like most juniors, right,
Mm-hmm.
and started playing right away in the NHL. You don't hear I guess the Blackhawks probably don't go off and complain about, oh, Bedard didn't show up, in peak physical condition, or like I don't know, like to your point, like giving Devo, like if you gave Devo a 5-year contract and then shipped Couturier out, that's different because you're basically saying, all right,
But they're not doing that. They missed their window to get rid of their players that actually kind of keep them out of the basement, like Konechny, like Couturier, like, Tippett,
I do
whatever.
feel like, I mean, I don't think Konechny wants to leave. That's the
Of course
issue.
he doesn't wanna leave, but you know what? He's gonna have to leave. Like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to be the best player on a team, and that's what
I mean, I
this
certainly think
franchise has
Travis
treated him
Konechny.
like.
I do certainly think Travis Konechny is tradable. He's averaging almost a point a game. You mean to tell me that of these contending teams, there's like 10 teams this year that you could make an argument for have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, right?
You're just not going to. Like, as much as they missed their opportunity to get, like, a king's ransom for him, and now you could still probably trade him, but in the building, they don't want to. He is the flyer. He is, like, their guy. That's the guy, and they're not going to, and that's part of just why you're not going to be good. It's so we talked about this before. It's like if they just kept the Sixers core together of, Iguodala and Evan Turner, Elton Brand, they just like clung to that until the wheels fell off and didn't actually sell off the pieces to really get into the gutters and then open up the next era. And that's where they're at. Like, you got lucky with the lottery a couple years to get you some nice players, but it's like you're seemingly not doing well on your mid to late first round draft picks. And that's like, you had 6 picks in the first 2 rounds and you drafted using like 5 of them. And, we're all excited about Porter Martone, but then you drafted Jack Nesbitt and like haven't heard many positive things coming about from Jack Nesbitt. Or like you drafted Bonk instead of guys like Zeev Buium, who's been a very productive
Well, no,
NHLer.
you took Jet. The big thing is you took Jet Luchenko over Zeev Buium. Now, look, Zeev Buium was just involved in a trade for Quinn Hughes, which, hey, I don't know.
You could have
Let's say
done
we
that.
draft.
Like, I don't know. Or it's just the Wild are in a much better place than we are, so it makes sense for them to go get a
You
Quinn
mean
Hughes.
like because they've let their Russian player get as many minutes when he was younger, develop into a superstar,
It's
and
like,
now that
because what was trading for Quinn Hughes really gonna do for the Flyers?
nothing.
That's not
Well, they'd
that's
be
my
better, but
they'd be
you would
better,
have
but
to lock. You
again,
would have to
are they
lock
a
him into
cup
a long term
contender?
deal, Michael. And I think Quinn Hughes is going to test free agency when he's available. Or at the bare minimum, the Wild, if he can't re-sign with the Wild, they'll trade his rights to another team.
Well, good thing for Minnesota is that they have a top, like, 5 record in the NHL or whatever, so they're very much fine in a to push in their chips to try to win a cup here. So, I don't know. They're frustrating. I don't like talking about them anymore. Um,
Hey, Jack Nesbitt's averaging a point per game plus 18 in the OHL this year. You chill with the Jack
but
Nesbitt
what are the
slander over
really
there.
good what are the really good prospects
I
that
get it.
they
Oh, they score 150 points and 50. Yeah, but he wasn't drafted to do that. He was basically drafted.
Oh, that's yeah. We need more defensive forwards. It's exactly what this team needs. Yeah, they don't score.
Well, if you were
They
properly
score way
tanking,
too many
if
goals.
you were properly tanking, you'd be like, "Oh, hey, let's see if we can get a first round pick for Noah Cates because we got the Maple Leafs to give us a first for
Well, and
old Scott Lawton." I
they
don't
don't do
know.
any of that. So let's talk about the Sixers. Really tough
A
loss
team that's
last
being
night.
punished because they tanked like 13 years ago.
Yes, they're still reaping the awful results from that, honestly, from the league and officiating. Really brutal loss yesterday to the Knicks. It felt like, listen, it was going to be hard to like sweep the Knicks or win the first 3 games against the Knicks. You already won 2 out there in the Garden. But this one was just annoying. And Embiid came out and genuinely looked vintage in the first half. He had 28 points. It was pure dominance. Everything was working. He was out there with like a vengeance. He looked like super determined and was finishing hard at the rim. Everything was great. The third quarter, it hasn't gotten them in a little bit. It hasn't gotten them in a little bit. but the third quarter woes reared its ugly head in the worst way, and they got totally dominated. And they were playing from behind the rest of the game, and they made a very valiant effort to come back in the fourth quarter, but a mix of missing some open threes and some poor decisions and bad officiating elicits and a very unfortunate, just really tough loss. And listen, the Knicks, they missed a ton of free throws that kept you in that game, and it wasn't just like, oh, Mitchell Robinson, we know he's a terrible free throw shooter. No, like it was a lot of like Brunson missed a pair at the
They
end that
went
was
so
huge.
cold the last 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and like got to give Sixers some credit there, but they couldn't buy a bucket, and the Sixers. It just felt like if they were a little bit hotter, they could have had the lead at those end stretches
No,
instead of
you're right. And
failing.
honestly, like, dude, the Knicks whistle, like the whistle the Knicks get is like it is ridiculous how like favorable their whistles are. Like compared to the rest of the league. I'm not just talking about the Sixers. Remember that Pacers series? Some of the whistles they were getting in that series, despite being clearly outplayed the
Yeah,
entire
like
series.
it was just really annoying. They couldn't, they got. I really felt they got hosed on the inbound foul called on Edgecombe as opposed to it being on like it was called on the floor on Brunson, and then I did not think it was enough to overturn it. Just felt like he was arm barring as like I'm blocking the passing lane. You can't like foul bait without the ball. It's not like he's holding his arm and Brunson has the ball and he rips through and it's like okay, yeah, like I get that. This was he's just not letting you get a pass and then he rakes under the arm and they're like, "Oh, that was all Edgecombe grabbing him." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Um Alas though, pretty like Quentin Grimes was very bad in this game. Kelly Oubre was not good at all in this game. Those two guys really let you down. They had significant minutes and big shots that they just could not buy a
Yeah, Quentin
bucket.
Grimes has been pretty rough the last couple games.
He definitely goes through stretches. I really wish McCain was playing better because I'd love to see him in that spot, but he really just hasn't. And I do feel that a G League stint, not just one game, would do him good, but I don't know
I
that
would agree. I do
they're not
I do
really
feel like
committing to that.
McCain. I do feel like McCain getting a G League stretch, at least get proper minutes and like basically
And
rehab his
just
thumb.
keep rehabbing the knee because like it's clear that everything's just a little bit off from that, and then now it feels like a confidence thing. And now he's just getting a lot of DNPs, so that's just tough. With
Yeah,
blocking the
I
back,
would. I do feel like he's probably a year away from being. Let him just get healthy.
just feeling back.
Just let him
Yeah,
and then let him get back. I think G League versus practice, basically practice. I think it would better suit him. It's sort of like in baseball. If you have a pitcher who is coming off of a serious injury, like an Andrew Painter, we'll just say, let him do
hmm
it in AAA, not get embarrassed at the pro
yeah.
level to nuke his confidence.
Maxi Tyrese Maxey he's had a rough go shooting wise. I'd say the last pretty much this month. He opened up the month very strong from three, 4 for 10 against Dallas, 6 for 9 against the Knicks in a win, 4 for 9 in the overtime loss to the Nuggets, 4 for 10 against the Wizards in a win. 3 for 8's fine, and then it 2 for 7 from three in the overtime loss to the Raptors. Then he was 6 for 9 in their win, and then 2 for 8, 2 for 8 in two losses, 1 for 4 in a win, 2 for 8 in another loss, 2 for 10 in a win against the Rockets. He ended up 3 of 7 yesterday, which isn't terrible, but it was like he hit the 1-3 fading away at the end to get them back in the game, which was huge. But he missed really a couple open looks throughout the second half that would have been just
Yeah,
maybe
and
managed it.
honestly, like that was kind of his weakness coming out of college was his 3 point shooting. That's why he fell in the draft so far. Was oh well,
I mean, it's just I think this is just the habit of great shooters. Like you look at Steph Curry game logs, and you'll see stretches of time where it's like, oh man, Steph just can't buy a three, and then he explodes, and it's like, okay, so like when you're a great shooter and you're a volume shooter, like you're just gonna have days, and you're gonna have stretches, you're gonna have weeks, you're gonna have maybe a month, and this is just I think a generally down month, and when he's not shooting well from three they usually lose. Um, And then yesterday, while it didn't end terribly, it just didn't feel as good. And he was missing mid-range jumpers too. The jumper's a little off at the moment, and like that comes back
You
around.
think the Sixers need to do a better job of trying to get Paul George figured more into the offense, or is he just cold?
No, I think Paul George is going to be what he is. Like at this point, I know we want to all look at the contract and all look and be like, this is supposed to be a max player. Like, and I understand that, but the money's paid, the contract's signed. It is what it is. His role is to be like in a very simplified form is just like a 3 and D guy. Like be able to knock down your open threes and be able to, catch a little dribble handoffs off a screen and be able to pull up and hit a three, be able to hit some pull up jumpers every now and again, and then play really good defense and rebound when you need it. He's doing all the fundamental basketball things great. The only thing he's not doing at like a really nice level at the moment is just shooting, which is frustrating. But like he hit some huge shots in the Rockets game that got you through that win. So like I think that's just what he's going to be. He's going to be hitting big shots during nice wins or whatever. But I don't think, nor should his shot diet be anything more of like more than 10 shots a game at most. Like it's if he's shooting like 20 times in a game where everyone's healthy and playing, like I think that's a problem. Unless he's like super hot and he has a crazy efficient day. But for the most part, I think anywhere between like 8 to 12 shots a game is fine, and like 6 of them need to be threes.
So we've been pretty negative so far on this podcast, Michael. Would you like something to make you chuckle?
Sure.
I uh I went on I saw a couple tweets about the Pistons, who are obviously they're one of the best teams in the NBA this year, Michael.
Hmm.
Guess who's like the whipping boy for the Detroit Pistons fans, the guy they all love to complain about?
Is it Tobias?
You are 100% correct, my friend. They just love like
Doesn't make me chuckle, man.
I'm just going through their Reddit. They're like trade packages involving Tobias Harris. Like realistically, Tobias is holding this team back.
Yeah, it's a shame. He just doesn't do anything tremendous, and he also doesn't do the little things good. And like that was his great. That was the problem here with him. And this,
You know that there's an old saying: the best ability is availability. He's the exception to the rule, or he's the guy that would challenge it.
yeah,
Like
he's
so,
always
just to
had.
give everybody a heads up. Michael and I were just texting about the Sixers during the Rockets game, and then yesterday as well. And I said to him, we're talking about Maxey, how good he is, and I was like, is Tyrese Maxey the guy that he's played the most with? And then you pulled up his.
I knew the answer was no, and I knew who was one, and it was just jarring to see how many more Tobias Harris games. Like he's Embiid's longest tenured teammate by a good stretch. Like Maxi won't pass him for like another 2 years or a year and a half or so, which is just tough. It really is just tough. That's peak Embiid, prime Embiid. His longest tenured teammate on a massive contract was Tobias Harris, and unfortunately, never came close to living up to the contract and really did a lot to sink the team's ceiling at times, unfortunately. But
And the straight up unwillingness to move off him because the team insisted that he was better than he actually was.
yeah, they never bit the bullet. They anytime there was trade talks, it was always shooting for the moon a little bit. Listen, it's literally Nick Castellanos. Like it is exactly Nick Castellanos to a T, I'd say. Big contract, committed to it. You're not dumping it unless it was for something big like, oh, we'll offer you Nick Castellanos and Alec Boehm for Kyle Tucker, Mr. Houston Astros. And it's like, okay, I'm sure the Astros were running
So
to do that one, man.
unserious.
Yeah, yeah. So um it's the same thing. If you don't watch the Sixers and you want to comp, it's Nick Castellanos, where I guess Casty had a few more playoff moments, which are nice, but in the spirit of baseball and whatever, it all pretty much averages out
I
the
don't.
same.
Yeah, we're gonna talk baseball in a couple days once we recap
How about
the.
availability too? A guy Castellanos is playing all the time. Like it's really like a durable bad player on a big contract that's expected to do a lot more. And if they were just okay, they probably would have won a championship by now.
Can
But
we talk about?
anyways,
Can we talk about other teams and make fun of them and not just talk how bad our teams are for just a little bit? Is that okay? Is that all right with you,
uh,
Michael?
I think we just gotta keep chugging through it and
Can
get
we
to the
can we
conference
talk about?
championship
Can
game.
we just talk about the? We were talking about earlier this week about some of the head coaching hires in the National Football League,
Okay.
and I believe there have been
There's been
a couple.
I'm thinking of two. Is there any other one?
Well, there's the big one yesterday involving
I'm thinking
the.
of Baltimore. I'm thinking of Pittsburgh. Was there another one?
We'll pull it up right now.
Okay.
NFL head coaching hires. We could talk about the one job that apparently nobody wants, and I think it's hilarious. It's
The
hilarious,
Eagles
and it's
offensive
also not
coordinator job?
surprising in the least.
Are you talking about the Eagles offensive coordinator job?
No, we're not talking about. No, we're not talking about that yet. No, no.
Excuse me.
You're upsetting me. I
Well,
mean,
John,
did we talk about the Falcons? Did we talk about the Falcons hiring Stefanski at
I
all?
will say this is one of the worst Philly sports months in terms of like every day just feels like a new new nugget of bad news. Like, doesn't it feel like that at this point? And like knocking on
If
wood.
I were to
I'm
describe this past month in Philly sports, Michael, I'm going to talk about the movie that I think's going to like probably win some Academy Awards. I don't know if it's up for it because it might have been two. No, they came out at the same time. The Leonardo DiCaprio movie, One Battle After Another. It
I
literally
haven't
feels
seen
like with
it.
Philly sports, it's literally one battle after another.
Yeah, yeah. This month has just been brutal news cycle. Every time the Philly sports teams are in the news, it's something atrocious. Anyways, rough month. But you wanted to talk about Stefanski?
Well, I just got all the head coaching hires pulled up. I don't even know. We didn't really talk a whole lot about it because I think they all occurred like after our show, or it was like we just skipped it. We're like, oh, we'll just talk about it on the weekend.
Okay.
All right,
So new
all
NFL
right.
head coaches.
New NFL head coaches. We're going to talk more about on Tuesday once we find out more information. I have a feeling the Eagles' next offensive coordinator is currently coaching today. I'm hoping for that at least.
That's some hopium. Let's start with Atlanta. The Atlanta
Okay.
Falcons hired Kevin Stefanski, and it feels like he's bringing in a bunch of guys that was with him in Cleveland and where he was with Minnesota before he got the Cleveland job, right? Like he's bringing some guys over from that too.
He was Minnesota's offensive coordinator when they went to the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, and that was his claim. I guess his claim to fame was he helped Case Keenum look competent for like 15 weeks until they ran into the Eagles buzzsaw.
He was there for a while though. Like he was their quarterbacks coach when they went to the conference championship game. Was their interim offensive coordinator the following regular
That's right. When
season.
John D. Filippo got fired.
Yeah, they're yes. And then was their OC in 29. So he worked a lot with Kirk Cousins, and look who's there, Kirk. But he brought some Cleveland guys with him, and when you look at like the roster of Atlanta, great running back situation like he had with Nick Chubb. Definitely, I think
Well,
some similarities.
I think their roster is very underrated, Michael. If you look at the Falcons, like James Pierce had 10
There's a
sacks
pretty
this year.
glaring issue with the Falcons roster.
It's the guy that throws the football.
It's the quarterback. Yes. So who knows? If he
Yeah,
got a
but
lot out
like
of
if you
Baker
think, but
Mayfield,
no,
maybe a lot of Michael Penix.
yeah, but if you look at a lot of teams, it's like you look at like the chart. If you look at like look at the Bills.
Look
Their
at the Bills.
problem is they have a quarterback, but they have like needs at like 8 different positions.
Well, yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it 8 on offense, at least. It's more just like
The
the wide
defense, like
receivers.
everywhere.
Well, it's like the entire wide receiver room, and then like, but everything else is great. But yeah, regardless, Stefanski, great, has some really nice offense. There's a good infrastructure there. It's a good offensive line. It's a great running back. It's a good receiving core. With a great wideout in Drake London. And there's a lot to be excited about. It is interesting, the quarterback situation. What Stefanski's going to be able to get out of Penix or Kirk or whatever they decide to do. Um, it all just feels a little unideal, but ultimately, I do think this is a nice hire for the Falcons.
Yeah, I would say the Falcons, they don't have their first round pick, which, you know, in a year you need a quarterback and you don't have your first round pick. It's not exactly the worst year to be missing your first round pick. I'm just saying.
Yeah. The next other hire we're looking at here, we have the Baltimore Ravens hired Chargers defensive coordinator the last 2 years, Jesse Minter. Now, I like this hire. He was with the
I
Ravens.
like it as well.
He was with the Ravens when right around the time they drafted Lamar, and was there as defensive assistants. And then he went to Vanderbilt for a season to be their D coordinator. Was a D coordinator under Mike McDonald or under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, and then got the Chargers job with Harbaugh as their D coordinator. And listen, I think the Ravens, they do tend to seems like kind of do these things right, and this feels like another one of those examples. I think it's a good idea to go a defensive guy. Um, I've kind of grown to the thought of if you already have a really well established elite quarterback, I think it makes sense to go for a defensive hire because you should be able to kind of trust your quarterback and your great running back and whatever to be able to put together a good offense. And you want that defensive infrastructure to stay and remain the same. That's how I kind of feel about the Bills job opening. That's how I would feel when like Andy Reid retires in Kansas City, whenever that is. I feel like it would make sense for them to go hire a defensive guy. Like that's kind of where I'm at with that sort of ideology. And if you're a Ravens fan, a lot of Ravens fans were clamoring, "Oh, we should have kept Mike McDonald. We shouldn't have let him left the building." This feels like the next closest thing to that. Um, Hiring Minter as the head coach, like that feels like a pretty, you know, a look into what it would have been had they have kept McDonald and moved on from Harbaugh earlier. And this is where we're at. So I think this is a nice move by Baltimore. It'll be interesting to see how they build out the offensive coach.
I think you know where it's funny. I think this is a why I think where I think this is a great move for Baltimore is that when you look at the Chargers defense since Harbaugh got there, Jim Harbaugh, excuse me, their defense the two biggest name players they have on defense are basically Khalil Mack, who's at the end of his career. He's basically a situational edge rusher at this point,
Mm-hmm.
like Brandon Graham, is or was, and like Derwin James. And like Derwin James is the best safety in football, like probably, right?
Yeah, they got some good star power. It's a good defense. It really is. It's a
It's a
good.
good defense, but I guess my point is like it's kind of like a no-name defense. It's like, oh, where did all these guys come from? It's the
Mhm.
Chargers. They suck at drafting normally. They're maximizing talent. And you look at the Ravens. Why did Harbaugh get fired? He failed to maximize the talent that's on the roster, or at least bring in coaches to help him maybe maximize it, or organization. I think that's where this is what the Ravens went out of Minter. Basically, okay, maximize the talent we have on defense. We know we have some holes, but we know the Ravens are very good at drafting,
Right.
and you know we already have a franchise quarterback, and we already have like weapons on offense. We're gonna,
It
hopefully they'll
just
figure out how
feels
to.
like you need to go acquire another or a top flight receiver, or at least another just good one, and then build out the defense again. And it feels like you make a decent OC hire, Ravens will be back in the serious
I
contention.
wonder if the Ravens are going to be the team that's going to blow all their money on signing Alec Pierce in free agency.
Like again, I don't think they're that stupid. I don't think they would spend. Like I think Alec Pierce would be nice, but I don't think they would spend an unreasonable amount of money for him. But yeah, Jesse Minter to the Baltimore Ravens. Scrolling through the next notable big head coaching hire, looks to be I get Jeff Halfley. Jeff Halfley, defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, down to the Miami Dolphins to take over for the fired Mike McDaniel. And this is an interesting one. I don't think Halfley is that bad. I really don't. I think it's one of those not his
I think
fault
he's overrated.
situations. Okay. I mean, maybe. I honestly, I think he catches a lot of crap, I will say, from like fans. Maybe in the NFL, he's a little more highly regarded, clearly, but from fans, it feels like a lot of people don't think he's very good. Um, Fact of the matter is, when Micah Parsons was playing, that defense was looking really good. And when you removed him and removed essentially any pass rush threat that Green Bay had, the entire defense kind of fell apart. Now, as far as the Dolphins goes, it feels like a new head coach really isn't moving the needle anywhere. It honestly, to be completely honest, it feels like they need to tear the whole thing down.
I
Uh,
agree.
they have a nice running game with Achan, and that's kind of it. Tua's never healthy or good. He's got benched for a long part of the season. It's all just a disaster, and I think it almost doesn't matter who the head coach would be. It all just needs to get stripped down.
Well, the Packers, so the Dolphins hired former Packers vice president of player personnel, John Eric Sullivan, right?
Mhm.
And you mentioned tear it down, right? There's a lot of skepticism about them hiring John Eric Sullivan, and I think Halfley to a certain extent as well. And I guess I'll just explain why. Michael, if there is one team in the last 4 years that has just done not a good job at drafting, it's
Mhm.
the Green Bay Packers. Like I'm gonna go and pull up the 2023 NFL draft first round. The Packers took Lucas Van Ness, 13th overall, and then go look at all the players that were picked after Lucas Van Ness.
Yeah. What year?
And
2023?
yes,
Let's just do it for the sake of some missed players here. We'll go to Pro Football Reference. Always a good source. Lucas Van Ness. Okay, so Will McDonald. That would have been nice. Christian Gonzalez. That would have been nice. Jack Campbell, nice player. Kalijah Cansey, very nice player. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Wow. Then you get the slew of Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. Dalton Kincaid, tight end. You can argue. Man, you look at like Miles Murphy and you realize, man, the Bengals just suck at this stuff. But yeah, there was a slew there for sure of from Will McDonald to Gonzo, Campbell, Cansey, JSN. That like there
this
were
kind of
guys.
you know what this feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when the Jets hired Joe Douglas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an abject failure. Like
Yeah.
I personally think that I mentioned my hot take of the Bucks maybe being awful and then picking Arch first.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, I'm just gonna say it, man. Realistically, who's going to be the worst team in the NFL? It's really between two teams, and they happen to be in the same division. It's going to be the New York Jets, who always find a way to screw their tank up at the end of the season, and the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. 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 That is.
But I think the Miami Dolphins may
Mhm.
actually go out and truly tank. I think we'll see some movement from them. I think we might see Jalen. If the Eagles do indeed move on from A.J. Brown, I would wager the Eagles would be on the phone calling Miami, seeing what do they need to move to get Jalen Waddle. Personally,
Well, don't love that, but
All
the
right,
next
let's
the
keep
next
going.
hire, yeah,
What do you think of this?
John Harbaugh.
If we're on CBS Sports, do we really think John Harbaugh is an A for the New York Giants?
No, I'm not on that. I was on Wikipedia scrolling
Oh,
through, but John Harbaugh. Would I call him an A for the Giants? I guess it depends on what you value. If you value winning games, maybe he's in. I don't know. You can't get. How are you going to give a coach whatever? Um, it'll be really interesting to see uh, what they end up doing with just kind of everything. The fact that they kept Joe Shane felt like an interesting decision. Feels like a, you suck next year, you fire Joe Shane, and I don't really, I don't have a hard time seeing the Giants suck, and it just feels like a waste of time. Yeah, that all, we all understand that. I guess maybe a culture change is in order, I guess, and Harbaugh can be a guy for that. I don't know. It just feels like this was a John Mara move more than anything of like, let's get the experienced veteran, won a ton of games guy, and that's going to help the New York Football Giants. And maybe he does. Maybe he does. Maybe we just grew so stale to
I don't know.
what.
Harbaugh, if you recall, Harbaugh was on his way out until they drafted Lamar.
No, I listen. I don't disagree. I think, to be honest, like we already talked about Sean McDermott and how I feel like he kind of got the shitty end of the stick in Buffalo. Like I think Sean McDermott's a much better candidate and guy than a guy like John Harbaugh, to be completely honest with you. Um,
But
and it
I don't think
feels and
Sean.
it feels
I
like
don't.
teams hiring either of those two guys would be hiring them for the same reason. Like, oh, a lot of success, just couldn't get over the hump, but can really help turn our franchise around. Like that's what it's going to be when Sean McDermott lands a head coaching job. That's what it is now that John Harbaugh's landed a head coaching job. And I feel like McDermott is the better side of that, to be completely honest. And again, I don't love McDermott. I think he has his issues, but I think it's more so there's a deep flaw with Harbaugh where I guess at least he doesn't cry and pout like McDermott does, but it just he doesn't move. He doesn't really excite me. He doesn't move a needle for me, and we'll see how that pans out for the Giants. What are you feeling on Harbaugh?
I mean, I think the Giants might have if depending on if they can stay healthy. I mean, could they compete for the NFC East in like a down year where the Eagles are banged up, or if the Cowboys are banged up? Like, sure, 9-8, 10-7 can win you the division, I suppose. But I mean, here's the thing, though, man, is like the Giants really never hire like the last retread coach the Giants hired, Michael. I'm sure you're aware of is Tom Coughlin.
Well, I mean, what was so post Coughlin was McAdoo,
Uh huh.
Joe Judge, Dable.
Uh huh. None of them, all of them are first year head coaches.
Yeah, and while those coaches, I don't think were that great. Um, it's just the fact of the matter was, I think the team just sucked. Like the teams were never good around that time, and like we make fun of the Giants all the time, but like it's just what they are. You hire a coach that doesn't seem that great, but your team also really sucks. So you're also like it's you're
The
the
Giants
chicken
are
or
in a
the
weird
eggs. Like
position. I mean, honestly, I would not be surprised if Joe Shane gets canned after this year because Harbaugh does a
that's
power
what it
play
feels like, man. If they win
and
six or
brings
less
in
games,
like a Ravens guy.
if they win six or less games, I think he's getting canned. Where it's like, oh, and like, the rookies they draft look like garbage. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like not a lot has to happen for Shane to get fired. Where I think more has to happen for him to stay.
I
Um,
agree.
and then the final. Well, there's two more. Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about a horrible move. I mean, it feels so unlike the Pittsburgh Steelers in their history that it's crazy that excuse me, you go from I'm drawing a blank on the coach before Mike Tomlin.
That would be Bill
Bill
Cowher, my
Cowher.
friend.
Yep. So Bill Cowher, young head coach, hired and experiences a long stretch of success with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Time runs out. What do? They hire 30-something-year-old Mike Tomlin and immediately has success. They win a Super Bowl early on. And, like, yes, while seemingly capping their ceiling for a while, they always he seems to be pretty good at getting a lot out of a not amazing roster year in and year out. And, like, all in all, a good head coach. And I'm really shocked they didn't try that formula again. I'm just shocked they didn't try to go for someone young. Like, honestly, Jesse Minter feels like would have been the perfect sort of hire for that. A younger guy, first time head coach. Like, that feels like it would have been the right move to make, or
Well,
one of the
it would have
right
been the
moves to make.
Steeler move of okay, we're gonna actually the last two Steeler coaches were not coordinators, or actually were defensive
Position
backs
coaches, right?
coaches. So
Yeah.
I forget which Eagles Twitter account like kind of
It
half
was like
joked about
Christian
it.
Parker threw it
They
out
were
there.
like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Christian Parker is going to be the next head coach of the Steelers because he checks off all the qualities of the previous two."
It just you would have just I'm shocked they didn't go to a young coach. Like, they've been doing that for their history, and now you're deviating from it in, like, maybe the worst possible way. Like, Mike McCarthy is not good. He's actually horrible. The Packers' offensive ranks in the final years while he was there were middle of the road in the 12 to 15 range. And in the years with Matt LaFleur, they've been in the top 5 pretty much every season. They were up at as high as like 3. So you clearly see a big difference of when Mike McCarthy was there and then he leaves and they get a lot better. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys previous before Mike McCarthy was there, ranked in like the top 10-ish or so in offense. Mike McCarthy gets there and they immediately plummet into the 20s and they were as low as like 29 in offensive EPA in his final season there. Granted, injuries, whatever, but he was bad. It was not good. And in their first year under Schottenheimer, they skyrocket into like the top it might have been, was it top 10, top 12, something like that. So under Shoddy, they're flying up the boards, and we all didn't think Schottenheimer was going to be a great coach. It just shows how bad Mike McCarthy is, and you're already taking an offense that was not good, and you make this move to what? Try to help to convince Rodgers to stay. That's really the hill you're dying on, keeping the 43-year-old quarterback that isn't that great. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is, you talk about dysfunction, and it makes a lot of sense why Mike Tomlin stepped away and didn't get fired. Like this, it's like he really saw the writing on the wall on what they wanted to do, it seems like, and just was like, it's time for me to get out of here, give myself a year off, and maybe get back at it next. Like, you know what I
Or
mean?
go to college and make bank.
Whatever he's got to do. Maybe do the hardball path where you go to college for a little bit before you get back in the pro game. Whatever. And this is like this is easily to me the worst hire, and it's really not even close. And I have a hard time believing even the other teams out there that still don't have head coaches, the Arizona Cardinals, the Cleveland Browns, the Raiders, the Bills. I'd be shocked if those teams make a hire that's as bad as what I think Mike McCarthy to the Steelers is.
Did kind of come out of left field a little bit, didn't it, Michael?
I mean, it was out there like thrown around when Adam Schefter, whoever posted that AI slop of Mike McCarthy in a bar with a bunch of Steelers fans because he's from Pittsburgh. He's a true Yinzer, as they like to say. Those weird inbreds out there. Um, this is like
Wow.
it was thrown out there that he'd be considered, and then they go out and they actually do it. And I'm sure, like, did they just do it because he's from Pittsburgh? Like,
Dude,
what? In
I'm going to tell you, let me tell you something,
It'd be
Michael.
like if Vic Fangio was a dog shit D coordinator and the Eagles just hired him because he's from the area. Like, that's what it is.
Let me tell you something, Michael, about when these teams hire coaches. The owners are always heavily involved. And
This one definitely, he definitely feels involved in this one. That's for sure.
and not to get too deep into the weeds, like the owners, like from what I've read, a lot of these owners when they get involved in hiring coaches, like I've read that like GMs to convince the owner to hire somebody, like when the Rams hired like McVay,
Mm-hmm.
is like, oh my god, it doesn't like Sean McVay remind you so much of your son like Clayton or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And to convince the owner, because that's the guy they want, where it's like, oh, McCarthy is like a huge Steeler fan. He loves the Steelers. Like, he knows what it takes, what we need to get done. Like, no, he really doesn't, because if you look at the success of the Pittsburgh Steelers as an organization, it's basically just being insanely good at drafting.
Yeah.
That's it, right? That's the Steelers in one draft drafted like like Pro Football Hall of Famers. I think in one draft, like Lynn Swan, Mike Webster. And I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds, but like if you're
Yeah.
gonna bring in if you want to bring in an offensive guy to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? You
Mm-hmm.
may have just been better served promoting Arthur Smith to be the head coach at that
Yeah,
point.
no, that easily would have been a better decision. I'm not even kidding. Like
If that was your if
this
that was
feels
your
like one of
idea,
the worst hires you could have made.
because I thought Arthur Smith legit milked as much as he possibly could have out of that Steeler offense, given the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't even like Arthur Smith as a coach, but
No,
like,
absolutely not. But that's just where we're at with McCarthy.
come on, man. I don't know. I got
We
there's one more.
Yeah, one more. Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. Um, Interesting one. I'll be honest, I guess I didn't think he'd get a head coaching job like
This
immediately.
fast.
Yeah, like I really, being the DC for the Niners for a year, he did about as good of a
Friend of
job
the
as he
show,
could.
Mac, thinks this is the worst until yesterday when the Steelers hired McCarthy.
It's interesting. I'm gonna be willing to hold it out because of the Jets stank and like maybe the Titans stank is also too
Well, I
strong.
mean, well, if we let's think about it historically, Jets had a head coach, fired the coach, the guy goes on to get more success after leaving the Jets. So like Pete Carroll's won, he's got a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
He's got a Super Bowl.
like yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Bill Belichick was the head coach for only one day, then he resigned on a napkin.
Mm-hmm.
Herm Edwards, not really, no. Um, Eric Mangini, no.
I don't think Robert Saleh is a bad coach. Like at
Todd
all,
Bowles,
honestly.
yes, more success after the
I
Jets.
look at
Rex Ryan, no.
I look at what he did with the Jets, where he came in there in his first year there. It was the worst defense in the NFL. They ranked 32nd in both points and yards allowed, and they went 4-13. And then just one season there, one season, one off season, is able to bring the defense from 32nd in points and yards to fourth in both categories. Fourth least amount of points, fourth least amount of yards allowed, and they go 7-10 with Zach Wilson at quarterback. Like, I don't know, man. That's impressive to me. I think that deserves credit. And then the following year, they were 12th ranked defense against in points and third ranked in yards, and they went 7-10 again. And once again, like Zach Wilson's the quarterback. And the year they have Rodgers, and obviously they fired Saleh during the year, but they ended up as a defense that ranked third in yards allowed again. And then this year, the defense goes to 25th ranked in yards and 31st in points. So I don't know, man. Robert Saleh is a good coach. The Jets are just really poorly ran. And I think that like you had a good guy in the building. You moved off of him because he like butted heads with the quarterback that was 40 years old. You had no future commitments to, and like this is where you're at. Like this is what you get. I don't know. I think Robert Saleh is a little bit better than he probably gets some credit for in terms of a head coach. We know how great he was as a D coordinator. I think he did
I 100% agree with
I
you.
think
I
he
do.
did a very admirable job with a very bad 49ers defense after all the injuries and stuff. Like, I didn't think it was a great unit before the injuries, and then you took away their two best players. Felt like a pretty impossible task, and they put together an admirable
I
season.
thought so. Like, I think Hard Knocks really made Robert Sala look bad because
Yeah,
people were like, "Oh, this guy's so cringe," you
right,
know.
right.
Where I think the fact he's going to be coaching in one of the smallest markets in the NFL, it's going to be good for him because he's going to have a lot of autonomy like over that team. I don't think he would become the Titans head coach without giving more leeway than when he was with the Jets. Otherwise, he would have waited for a better job. In all
Yeah,
honesty,
and like while I do think it would have, I just talked about how like I think great quarterbacks, it's fine to hire a defensive minded head coach because you trust them to move the thing along. I do think that like Cam Ward, while I was encouraged by the things, he was a rookie that didn't light the world on fire his rookie year. Like I do think it would have been nice to get an offensive head coach that could kind of nurture him and grow him. But in theory, let's say they hire Brian Dable because that's kind of what's alleged at this point. If he doesn't get the Bills job, he's going to get the Titans offensive coordinator
well,
job.
what's stopping the Bills from hiring Brian Dable right now?
They don't want to.
They don't
They
want to
don't
hire
like
Brian Dable.
him. Yeah, like that would be what's stopping them. Nothing's stopping them from doing it. I just think that based on the reports, it's like Dable wants the Bills job the most, and if he doesn't get it, he wants the Titans OC job. And
Jeremy
that
Fowler,
like he
apparently
wants the coach's
Jeremy
good buddy
Fowler from
Josh.
ESPN. So Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reported that this is what he said was that the Eagles' job is not off the table for Brian Dable. The Eagles haven't offered him the job yet. It wasn't like I don't know. It could be his agent talking. It could be a way to use the Eagles to get
You
more
haven't
money.
offered him the job yet. If I had to guess where his mind is at, he wants to coach his good buddy Josh and take on that again and like be able to trust him to do anything he wants. And if he doesn't get that job, he wants a low stakes OC job where he's not like going to be susceptible to the can if things don't go well. Where like if the Titans are a fine offense and Cam Ward shows enough flashes, it's like okay, if he's not going to get any head
Oh, like if
coaching,
the Titans rank like 18th in offense. Oh, look, we were 29th in offense last year. Look how
right,
great
right,
I did.
right, and it's like
I don't know,
he still
Greg Olson. Let's just segue into the Eagles OC job. Let's just talk
yeah.
about that for a little bit. Then we'll go to the games and we'll wrap up the pod for today. Greg, there's this like differing opinions on the Eagles OC job. Diana Rossini, who just loves poking the bear with the Eagles fans, basically said this is the Eagles OC job is a garbage job.
Yeah.
And then you see Josina Anderson, who states, no, it's a job where you're going to get basically full almost. She likes to dabble in hyperbole as well.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, oh, you're going to be afforded full autonomy on the offense, like Kellen Moore did, where we know Kellen Moore
He
did
didn't have
not.
full
That was
autonomy.
not true.
Yeah, no, he didn't have full autonomy. He had good say in it and implemented his wrinkles well, but it was definitely not full autonomy. That is for certain. Which, listen, if this is going to be different than Kellen Moore and actually going to get full autonomy, sure. But when you look at the Eagles' offensive coordinator job, I see both angles to it. I see the angle of like, look at all the talent you got to work with. Obviously the offensive line health is a huge question mark, and if those guys will ever get back to form. But in theory, you have two great tackles and you have a solid enough interior that the offensive line is a good enough unit. You have a quarterback who, while has limitations, also hasn't really been challenged to push those at all. And in the few times that he does, he seems to do well. But there is enough of like a ceiling on him that they don't, the turnover averse, the risk averse style of play. We really probably haven't seen the full Jalen Hurts' experience on display in its totality. Running back, you have an elite running back in Saquon Barkley, full stop. Tight end room, it's going to need to get probably completely reworked from this
But
past year.
tight
And then
end
the
is
receivers, like
yeah. If you look at like when you're fixing a roster or upgrading a roster, tight end in terms of like how much you spend for your cap and like drafting as well. Like I would
depends
say
your offense. Like it depends who's
it's
running.
easier. It's an easier position to find than say
Wide out.
tackle or quarterback. You know,
Yeah, we're wide out. Yeah,
or
absolutely.
wide out. Exactly.
So
So it's
you
not
got
it's not
two great
dire.
receivers. You got two great receivers, and you may have to have some responsibility in trying to convince one of them to want to stay, regardless. That is enticing. A great receiving duo, a very good quarterback, and an elite running back. Like that's something that I would want to get my hands on if I was an offensive play caller. But then there's the downside to it, where there is still question marks, and it is very unclear on how much of it is going to be your system, or if you are just going to be running variations of what the Sirianni system is. And no one likes the Sirianni system. We don't like it. And, players don't like it. No one likes it. So if you're put in that box, and you're also put in that same box where you're under a microscope when things don't go well, you're getting literally eggs thrown at you. Um, it's I can see that not being very enticing. Now, maybe enough fans have kind of opened their eyes a little bit and see that a lot of this does seem to be Sirianni oriented, and he'll start catching a lot more blame when it comes around. But I see both sides to it. I see it being an admirable job. I'm seeing it being a not so enticing job. I
Well, Greg Olson said he's like, oh, he's called it a gold mine, Michael. And listen, like we both, I think you and I
It
both,
is true. If you are successful, you are getting a head coaching job. Full stop. Like it is very one good year is
and
all it takes.
yeah, and I do think though too, like you're getting a head coaching job, and you can kind of pick which job you want.
Yeah, and why it is probably a gold mine too is like the Eagles are going to be good. So it's like if you put together a good offense, the defense is so good too that the team is going to succeed. As much as we talk about, it's good to you got to look at the numbers, you got to dig in. Sometimes, the team success isn't fully indicative. When you're like you mentioned, when you have owners that are heavily involved in these sort of things, people want to see the team succeed. So, like the Eagles going, if they go 9-8, but the offense is firing on all cylinders and the defense really lets them down, yeah, they'll get head coach each other, probably get a job. But in terms of like picking anywhere you want to go, that's when the defense is good too, and you go on a Super Bowl run and you go on a deep playoff run. And like if we talk about all the time, if the Eagles offensive coordinator is good and they put together a good scheme, more often than not, knock on wood, they're going to go to the Super Bowl pretty much every time just because of how talented they
Well,
are.
not just that too, Michael. It's also like I think when you mentioned like like getting eggs thrown at your house, like I think like Kellen Moore said something like, "Oh, it was tough because like you'd hear it from the fans, you get criticized," and I'm thinking to myself like, if you intend on becoming an NFL head coach, uh,
Mhm.
news flash, you're gonna get criticized by fans unless
Right.
you win every game that you coach in. So like
Yeah.
I think this idea of well, I don't want to go like I guess like, here I'll throw out a name like Mike McDaniel going to the Chargers, right? Oh, like if we would like what if we didn't throw if fans did I don't condone this by the way. If fans didn't throw eggs at Patullo's house this year, that McDaniel would want to come here.
No, I don't think that changes things. Like, but it's just I'm sure for like a hot second they do think about that. I don't think that's out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? Like, I think there is some validity to. Well, I mean,
I do
you threw
believe
eggs at his
I
house,
do
dude. Like,
believe there will be somewhat of a scheme change because when all of the best players on your team are frustrated by it and you're paying them a collective like $200 million, and the coach is being paid like $7 million. Guess who's going to get overridden on that?
It depends. Listen, it really depends on who they hire. At this point, they've interviewed a lot of people. It doesn't feel like they're going to get Dable. They obviously aren't going to get
Which
Mike
might be a good
McDaniel.
thing because
I mean,
realistically,
I didn't want Dable, to be honest with you, but like I see the vision, I guess. But they're not going to get McDaniel. Um, Todd Monken is like up in the air because it was all expected. He was going to just follow Harbaugh to the Giants, but he's seemingly holding out for a head coaching job. But
no,
I
I
think
think it's a
that,
money. I think that the Todd Monken situation. I think it's a money situation. Look at how the Giants got to be paying a ton of money in former coaches
what, because
slash
of
like
firing?
yeah, because like, and I think when you look at Monken, like if the Eagle, like personally, I think Monken is holding out for a head coaching job, but I also think too, to a certain extent, I don't know. We talked about the guys that we only really talked about one candidate, which was Brian Dable. A lot of the
Yeah, I
guys,
mean,
a lot of the guys the Eagles have interviewed are now
suck, to be
OCs.
honest, they suck. I will say I am not encouraged like almost at all with all the guys that they've interviewed. They talked to Stefanski, head coach. Okay. They interviewed Drew Petzing from the Cardinals. Didn't love that, but I guess if the Lions think it's a good idea, maybe the Lions do things right. Lions hired him as the offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel pursued, but again, going to the Chargers. Brian Dable, but it's preference that he's going to be the Bills or Titans OC over the Eagles. They interviewed Zach Robinson, who went to the Buccaneers due to the Baker Mayfield connection. But like again, why were we doing that at all? Bobby Slowick, they interview. We weren't happy about that, but thank God he's going to just be promoted to the Dolphins offensive coordinator. They were reportedly had interest in Arthur Smith. Another thing we didn't love. Why are we doing that? We
Well, that's
interviewed
the thing
Mike
with the Eagles. The
Kafka.
Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie loves
There's
bringing
more,
in
John. There's
like
more. We also have Mike Kafka. That's like hit or miss in terms of how you think. I think he was more of a hotter name a few years ago. Jim Bob Cooter. That's like kind of going back to your Steichen roots, and maybe there's something there, but we'll see. Steichen's been open to letting him go. Josh Grizzard, who we all think did a terrible job with Tampa this year. Then
also
there's
Baker's just bad.
yeah, but we like the running game all of us like was terrible this year and when it was good previously. And like then they interviewed Matt Nagy, dude. Like Matt Nagy is who we're interviewing for this, like in all earnesty. Like what are we doing here? It's just a waste of time. It genuinely is just a waste
It
of time.
does feel I don't know my suspicion. This is my suspicion. This is my hope. And one battle after another with every bad news every day. The and I'll say this about the Eagles. So I think this is smart. I think some teams rush to get their coaches hired and not hiring guys that from the remaining four teams. Because if you, besides in the playoffs, if you think about it, right? Like, wouldn't you want a Rams guy here to be the OC? Wouldn't you want, I don't know,
Maybe. I don't know, man. I just want
maybe
someone
someone from
good.
Denver? Because we know the scheme in Denver's good. It's just the quarterbacks are bad.
I think I want Declan Doyle. That's I think where I'm at.
And
I
I
think I
know who
want
Declan Doyle is. Do you want to explain who Declan Doyle is?
So Declan Doyle is the current Bears offensive coordinator who, while it's a lateral move, he would be given play calling duties, which is not something he's ever had to do. It's not something he's done in Chicago. And listen, that is a huge concern, I think, to all Eagles fans is hiring a first-time play caller. It's not something we're super excited about. It's not something we're super looking forward to, anything. But when two of the better offensive minds in football, one being Sean Payton and one being Ben Johnson, have had nothing but rave reviews to say about him. I do have to say that's encouraging. Um, Reports are he's been heavily involved with game planning and schematic stuff from that perspective, with both head coaches that he's worked under, but with the Bears specifically has done a lot with Caleb Williams in terms of the under center game and the play action game, and he gets a lot of credit for his development. And those those things are encouraging. Those are things I want to hear. Those are things that excite me. The
Yeah, if the
cons of
Eagles'
just being
offense
the first
plays
time
well
play
with
caller.
Declan Doyle, he'll automatically be a head coach. It's literally a guarantee.
Exactly. So, you know, it's one of those things that's definitely exciting, I think, in that regard. But first time play caller, and listen, it's a huge difference between sequencing plays, calling plays, and you know, designing a game plan. They're two very, very different things, as we've seen in recent years. Where I wouldn't be surprised if in Sean Payton trees and Ben Johnson trees, those guys kind of do all that on their
I'll
own.
say this: if they hire Declan Doyle, then if I'm Tank Bigsby, I am very excited because that means I'm going to get at least 10 carries a game. Because if you look at the offenses for the Lions, I guess, and the Bears, they love splitting reps between the running backs. I think it's going to be good for Saquon long term because he's not going to get 30 touches a game, I guess, you know.
It's just they're gonna sequence things better. Yeah, I think they would sequence some things better. But we'll see. We'll see. It all remains to be seen. We keep saying by next episode they'll have a new hire, but maybe they are
That's why
waiting
we
for
did the
these.
show Sunday. I know that's what you were thinking. Hey, let's
I
push it.
I I, I did think there would have been some momentum,
I have
but
to run to the.
maybe
I have to step away for just a moment. You're going to keep talking.
I can open up the conference championship. Well, I'll wait. I'll wait. So yeah, we'll see who they end up hiring. My vote I think is if it's going to be a first time play caller, I think Declan Doyle is a fine job. Or Shiohasi from, I'm not sure how to say his name, from the Rams. That's something I would be intrigued about. But if I was just picking from the list that like has the reports to it, it's not very enticing to be honest with you. And most of these guys are not available either. So I guess I would have to Charlie Weiss maybe, or um, maybe Jim Bob Cooter. I don't know. We'll see. But we have two games today. Conference Championship Sunday, always a fun Sunday. I don't think we're going to be seeing any snow in those games as these are on the western part of the country. But we will be seeing some. We will be seeing football games, that's for sure. The first game we have is the AFC Championship game, a classic rematch of some mid 2010s Brady Manning matchups, but that is far from what we're seeing today. We have Drake May and the New England Patriots on the road in Denver to take on Jarrett Stidham and the Denver Broncos. We talked about the injury a little bit last week. He's going to be out. What was it like? Uh, 12 weeks or so is what the injury is or whatever. So no shot at coming back at some miracle Super Bowl thing or anything like that. But Jared Stidham's going to be in there. The Patriots are 3.5-point favorites on the road, and the public is going with New England. And as expected, I think if the spread was a little higher, I'd be more inclined to look at Denver. But I do think that
It is very telling how many points the Patriots are allowing here.
they're not getting much. And when I look at this game, I see. Let's start with the Denver side of things. Let's start with Jared Stidham. It's very interesting. Sean Payton has a great record. He's like 13-4 when he's coaching a backup quarterback. And
Well,
if there is a coach that I would trust to like put together a good enough game plan to succeed, I really do think that Sean Payton could be a guy that can get the most out of it. But my concerns really do come from that they're just not a good running team. They don't run the football well. They ran it well
and
with J.K.
no J.K.
Dobbins.
Dobbins today.
Right.
That's a major blow. I think that's
Yeah.
a big. I think no Dobbins today is a bigger blow than them missing Bonex.
It's a funny one that I like it. I like it. I do think. I mean, if they had Dobbins, I'd feel I think a lot better. But I mean, even then, it's like Dobbins isn't going to be 100%. Like he was limited all week. If he was playing, he would clearly not be at a full health capacity. So I do feel I just think that Broncos offense is going to be so limited. And when I look at what New England's defense has been able to do through the first 2 weeks of the playoffs between, Christian Barmore and Milton Williams up the middle, and they're getting pressure from the edges, and Christian Gonzalez is playing lights out. It feels like they are going to be able to kind of stop. You think about what the Broncos are going to want to do. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to run a lot of screens. They're going to want to and like they're going to throw their fade balls. They throw a lot of fade balls, a lot of slot fades, a lot of just floating one down the field. And I do think Stidham's like capable of that. But what I don't think he is capable of is kind of avoiding the negative plays. I sent you and I was watching some Theo video of breaking down quarterbacks that have it's like a sack rate over 8% and like a turnover rate over 5%, something ridiculous. Just bad
No,
numbers.
I mean, yeah. Listen, I mean,
And
dude, you're totally right. The Jared Stidham tape is not exactly like the most encouraging,
yeah,
but dude,
I
it's
do
such
think he's a little Nixy, but I do think he's a little less athletic. And that I think he's not going to be able to, he's not going to make a play that Bo Nix can make that totally bails you out. Like he's not going to move in the pocket and roll around and sling something downfield to a one-on-one opportunity that turns into a big play. Like he's just going to get sacked. Like I think that's what's going to be more likely to happen. There's a shot that he just gets sacked and strip sacked or
I have a
whatever, but it's
I have a take. I'm ready. I can't wait to unleash, and I would love to see your reaction on it
oh
right
boy.
now.
Go ahead, let's let it rip.
All right, so this iteration of the Denver Broncos, from my just studying like NFL history,
Mhm,
they're very similar to like the Giants of the 80s slash early
mhm.
90s, where if you look at those teams, you're like, why does Lawrence Taylor only have two Super Bowl rings? Like how great that defense was. It's because the quarterback wasn't good. Like Bill Sims was not a good quarterback. Like,
Mhm.
oh, you look at his numbers. Like if they had like, I'm gonna you know what? Let's play the what if game. Dan Marino was the quarterback for the New York Giants of the 80s. They had like 5 Super Bowls.
Okay.
And you look at like if you look at the NFL this year and how weak it's been, weak, right? And there's not a dominant team. Why not? Why can't Denver win today?
Listen, I do think there's some merit to it. I really do. I don't think it's impossible. We've seen backup quarterbacks go on runs before. It's just hard, man. He hasn't thrown a pass in 2 years. Like that is a tall, tall task to come in and just play out of your mind or play good enough in a
So
one-off.
Sean Payton,
It's not Nick Foles. He hasn't had like
right?
4 regular season games to warm
I
up.
do feel like kind of like with the interim coach, the backup QB. I feel like the first game, like, kind of plays a little well, and then it goes completely off the rails after that. In other words, well, I don't want to tip my hand for what I think is going to happen after this weekend, but I mean, I'll say this though too. There's an anecdote that came out this week. I forget which reporter said this. The reporter brought up the anecdote was when Phil Simms broke his foot in the playoffs, and then the Giants had to turn to Jeff Hostetler to quarterback them for the last 2 games of the year.
Mhm.
Hostetler, similar situation like Stidham, barely played. He actually was a special teams player.
I
Like
mean,
he
what year was this?
This
What are
was
we,
like the
1980
early
what?
90s,
Like,
early
this is
90s.
just we're talking about a completely different sport. Like, it's not
I
even
well, no.
remotely
Let me just finish telling my story, and then we're not doing X's and O's. Basically, when Hostetler had to come in, Bill Parcells, who's like basically
Oh,
Sean Payton's father, essentially, right? That's his like
yeah,
his mentor.
right.
Went in front of the whole team before they played. I think the Niners in the NFC Championship game, or something, where he basically told the team, he's like, look, if we're going to lose tomorrow, it's not Jeff Hostetler's fault. He says it's going to be one of your guys' fault because you're going to do something dumb tomorrow that'll cost us the game. So in other words, he's basically telling his team, like, look, y'all got to step up because we're not gonna.
of
It's
what
not
we
gonna
did.
be his fault if we
And
lose.
Sean Payton, didn't he like has said that basically
And
this
then
week.
they
That's
asked
like,
Mike
yeah,
McGlinchey that, and he's like, "Did he tell you that? Like, did Sean Payton say the same thing?" He's like, "Yeah, like And
he did
excluding
not.
all the curse words, by the way.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, he pretty much said the same thing to us. Like, it's one of you dumb MFers are going to cost us the game if we lose tomorrow. It's not going to be his fault." So
Right. So, and no, listen, I to flip the side to the New England side and what could go wrong for them. Like this is again perfect
there's also
opportunity.
massive revenge implications with this scenario too. By the way,
Yeah. Um, the the way that New England would lose this game is,
Drake made turnovers, and
yeah, like
they
it's a
actually get
similar
punished.
way. Yeah, it's a similar way to what Houston was doing to Drake May, where they were just killing Will Campbell, and they were May's holding on the ball a little bit too long, and he's taking too many sacks. He's putting the ball on the ground. I don't think they're going to afford putting the ball on the ground 4 times today and be able to get out as unscathed as they did against Houston. Granted, they did all that and they like pretty comfortably won the game. It never felt like it was totally in the balance. And I do think there can be a similar path to that because I can just see Jared Stidham playing a game like to a similar level to what CJ Stroud put out there last week. Like the defense is going to be humming. You're going to be able to put Gonzo on Cortland Sutton, and it's going to be basically can Stidham hit a few slot fades to Marvin Mims, and is uh, Carlton Davis going to play a bad game like that? That I really feels like is a lot what the Denver hopes rely on, and like Nick Benito. Nick Benito is going to need to just kill Will Campbell and be in Drake May's like in his blind side all game long, causing problems and forcing turnovers. They're gonna like if I'm gonna look on betting markets to try to find a non-quarterback attempting a pass today because I do think we're gonna see like a fake punt. I think we're gonna see like maybe a fake field goal. I think we're like Sean Payton, we know likes to get a little tricky, likes to get a little frisky.
Are we gonna
And I
see
think,
Are we gonna see the Broncos special with Cortland Sutton? Remember, I had a parlay that got destroyed because
oh yeah, because he threw a touchdown instead of
yeah,
right. But I do think that like it could be fourth down and like Denver in their own territory, and I could see them trying to fake a punt, like something like that. I could see Sean Payton being a little stupid with his aggression, but you kind of have to be if you want to find a way to win today. But where I think New England is going to be able to take care of things is they can pound the rock. And the Bills ran the ball very successfully against the Denver Broncos. And I think that New England can follow a similar path. Like as long as Ramondre Stevenson keeps not fumbling, he's a very effective runner. Feels like we're maybe due for Travion Henderson to really break one, although he's struggled a lot in these playoffs. And Drake May's just been able to make throws, make big time throws. Like and under not underrated, but I guess under talked about matchup in this game is really like it's just going to come down to maybe what team's cornerback 2 is going to play better or play worse. Like we know that Pat Surtain is great, and we know that Christian Gonzalez is great, but is Riley Moss going to get picked apart, and is Carlton Davis going to get picked apart? And if those two guys are going to get whoever does worse feels like that could be the reason their team loses because that's obvious. We know that's where the offenses are going to attack. And
if I were to have a low key pick for anytime touchdown today, I would say Pat Bryant would be a good play because he's probably worked a lot with Jared Stidham on like this on the second team / the
mhm,
preseason.
yeah, I'm going to take New England -3.5. I did a lot of wrestling. If this was closer to 6, I probably would have felt more comfortable picking Denver. But the fact that it's just more than a field goal, I see New England winning in a bunch of different ways. And if I had to actually put a score prediction together, I'm going to say something like 31 to like 14 maybe. But I could see this being
I'm going the other
21
way.
seventeen.
I'm taking Denver. I look at the spread. I do find it odd that despite most of the money being on New England, they lowered the spread.
Sharp
Which
money was on Denver. That's
sharp
what
money's on Denver.
yeah.
Well, sharp money is on Denver. Should that kind of
You're riding
be
with the
like a?
sharp.
Should that be like a kind of
A telltale, maybe.
telltale? I
Maybe.
mean, I
Vegas
guess
has been cleaning house this playoffs, I think, right?
yeah. Let me bring something up here too. We talk about this. I guess kind of go into why, like, if we want to go into more of our choices since we've telegraphed it or we already announced it. We rank. We talk. You bring up the units, like each unit. How do we rank them? I would say Denver's defense is first. I would then put Patriots defense second.
I'd put Patriots offense second.
You think so?
I mean, they were the top 2 offense in football this year.
Okay.
Then New England's defense.
And then the Bronco offense. And the lowest ranked unit, I think, if you want to argue coaching wise, might be the best coached.
I will say the worst. Denver's defense all regular season did not force turnovers. Granted, they had a bunch against Buffalo, and that's awesome for them. And maybe that means they're just going to force a bunch of turnovers all playoffs. But the fact of the matter is that they were a great defense without forcing turnovers because they struggled to. They struggled to take the ball away. They didn't get a lot of interceptions. They didn't get a lot of strip sacks. They just played good, hard defense. And I think you're going to need turnovers to win this game. And I'm going to trust that they're not going to – a team that was bad.
That's true. The Chargers and the Texans defenses both forced a lot of turnovers this year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the defense that struggled to turn the ball over all season long, that had like an outlier great turnover game in their last playoff game, I don't think they're going to repeat it. So that also factors into my pick here.
Yeah, I would say this, though, with Denver's defense. I do think – Drake May's first road playoff game. One of the toughest places to play in the NFL in the playoffs. I just out of curiosity, Michael, I looked up Tom Brady's road playoff game, like his numbers. And I know what you're thinking. Tom Brady's not playing today. Just to show you how hard it is to play on the road in the NFL in the playoffs, Tom Brady's only 7-4 in his career in road playoff games.
Like only 7-4. Like
right. Like it's not.
I mean, that's still really good. Like
it's still good. It's tough, is what I'm saying.
Most guys are under 500 in their playoff career. You know.
Right. It's not easy. It is not easy. That's why these games, these regular season games, are so darn important. You know.
Yeah. Moving on to the NFC Championship game, we have the Seattle Seahawks hosting the Los Angeles Rams. The third time these teams are facing off. Now, some early third-time stat is Sean McVay's 3-0 against teams that he's faced 3 times in a season. And I think is both times – or I think he played Arizona once in the playoffs and beat them. He played San Francisco once in the playoffs and beat them.
I thought the John Wolford Cardinals beat him.
In
the playoffs, didn't he? Or is that the right? Or was that the? And wait,
what are you talking about? I think you're. They beat the Cardinals in the playoffs in like 2021 on their way to the Super Bowl win.
Right. Okay, never mind.
I think they beaten the Niners in the playoffs once, so that would have been a sweep potentially. Like 3 times. They're 3-0. Sean McVay and the Rams. Matthew Stafford obviously has a lot of playoff success with the Rams, a lot of playoff wins with the Rams. You look at this game, no Zach Charbonnet, and honestly, this could almost be a blessing in disguise, I think, for Seattle, where, yes, Charbonnet has been a very important part of them. It's not like he's a bad player or anything, but you spend all year splitting the carries, and a lot of it is due to the fact of, we want to keep Kenneth Walker healthy. He's always hurt, all this stuff. And you're like, now's the time, man. Like, now is the time, even with Charbonnet in there, to like unleash him. Yeah, and it feels like now is he was unleashed against San Francisco, and he was incredible. and he's always been great. He just gets hurt all the time. And this feels like an opportunity where they can really, take the muzzle off and let him go eat and let him go cook and let him
KM3.
take over the game. And really I think he's really a nice player. And I think that's a humongous integral part to the Seattle's offensive success. And I think he's going to be a huge
KW3.
part of it
Sorry,
again.
Walker.
But we talk about the units again. Who's the best unit on the field? Who's the worst? Whatever. The best unit on the field is by far the Seahawks defense. That defense is incredible. You make arguments on Legion of Boom and stuff, and it's like, they're playing in a better division than the Legion of Boom ever played in. That's a plus for this team's
Probably
this
playing better opponents in the NFC than the Legion of Boom did.
right. And this is going to be a true test because we saw this Rams offense put up like 40 points against them just a few weeks ago in Seattle, and it took a crazy turn of events for them to like blow the game, all that sort of stuff. But I don't think that's happening again. I think if all things go right for the Rams on offense, I think their max still is going to be like 23 points. And if you score 23 points and you got to be able to hold Sam Darnold to less than that. And I just look at this and I don't think they're going to be able to. I'm leaning Seattle. That defense has been so strong and really is peaking at the right time.
So you don't buy into at all Oz the Mentalist's little prediction before the season, Rams Broncos Super Bowl?
No, I don't. And listen, maybe, but I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to prove to be a lot to handle for the Rams, and I don't like the Rams straight up have not been playing good for 2 playoff games now. I don't think they played well against the Panthers, and I don't think they played well against the Bears. They managed to get their wins and skate on by, but like a real switch would have to flip for them to prove me wrong, I guess, today. And if Seattle could have learned anything from watching those games, it's be physical, be tight in man coverage, let your pass rush eat. You could heat up Stafford a few times and get him uncomfortable. Like Matthew Stafford has been largely inaccurate, I'd say, as of late, and especially in the playoffs. He's not playing at peak of his powers.
That's what kind of scares me for if you're Seattle, because how many bad games in a row is he going to have?
Well, but you got to think of why he's having these bad games. He's having these bad games because the windows are really tight and the teams are playing tight man coverage. He looks awesome when teams are running their zone and the middle of the field's open and he's slinging them in there to open guys, and that's great. I'm not saying there's throws he can't make, but he just hasn't been making them. And he doesn't handle the pressure well because he's old and he can't move. And you look at what was in the very, very brief, small amount of success that the 49ers had against the Seahawks last week, it was Brock Purdy running around, scrambling, and finding Jake Tunges or Jawan Jennings for a couple big streaks, or, the check down game was like, okay. But their actual success came from him scrambling and running around. Guess who's not going to be scrambling and running around today? Matthew Stafford. So I really do think Seattle's defense can be able to take over the game. And even if the Rams offense performs at a high level, I just don't think it's going to be enough because of how well that Seahawks defense is playing, that by default, they're going to hold them to like 23 or less points or so, 21 or less points.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game. I think there's a couple. Let's just do the units again. The best unit on the field, I think, is Seattle's defense, and then the Rams' offense.
And the Rams' defense, I'd say.
That's
close. It might be equal. Like, it's very close. Rams.
It's
defense,
so close. I'm going to give the edge to the Rams' defense because let's be honest, dude. Sam Darnold. Okay, how do I describe Sam Darnold this post so far? That from the one game we saw in the postseason, then going back to maybe the last couple regular season games. Michael, you don't remember this because you weren't even born yet.
Nice.
Everyone likes to throw the dig at Jalen Hurts of, oh, he was Trent Dilfer last year when they won the Super Bowl. No, Sam Darnold is Trent Dilfer right now for this Seattle Seahawks team. Because he literally has all he
Darnold
has to do is not screw up, and they will win.
Hold on. I might have to come to the defense of Sam Darnold. You know that's
He's better than Trent Dilfer. That's also part of my argument.
What year was it? 2000?
2000.
Jesus, man. I mean, he only had more than 10 completions once in the Super Bowl run. It's not the same thing. It makes me question the quarterback rating stat on ESPN here that in a 21-3 victory in the first round of the playoffs against the Denver Broncos, he went 9 of 14 for 130 yards and 1 touchdown.
Isn't that like a Darnold-ish stat line from the last couple weeks, though? Oh my God, he went 12 for 17 for 130 yards and a touchdown. Ooh.
Listen, wow. I hear you. I hear you.
Are we really going to nitpick 3 checkdowns?
I guess, man. Well, listen, if he isn't asked to do a lot, then he's not asked to do a lot. Well, I mean, John, he went 5 for 16 for 117 yards. 31% of his passes completed, and they won the game by 2 touchdowns. I don't think if Sam Darnold completes 5 passes today and the Seahawks win the game, you can buy me a Trent Dilfer jersey. I'll buy you a Trent Dilfer jersey. If
I don't want a Trent Dilfer jersey.
I'd something.
I don't want one.
No way that is. I mean, 9 of 14, $130 and a touchdown. 5 of 16, $117, nothing. 9 of 18, $190, a touchdown and a pick. And I'm seeing
we're going to be in for an all-time day.
Hold on. He had a 96-yard completion that I'm assuming was probably the 96-yard touchdown. So he really, if you remove one pass play away, he was 8 of 17 for what is that? 96 yards on the day or something.
Sam Darnold's a better quarterback than Trent Dilfer. That's not what I'm arguing.
No, I know.
But my point is that the Seahawks have shown, like everyone, like friends of the show, Zach and Mac, we were talking about. We watched the playoffs together last weekend. We all kind of came to the same conclusion, though. We're like, oh wow, Darnold really didn't do anything. Wow, it's so impressive. Seattle just annihilated San Fran. And it's kind of like the way that team is now kind of built. And shout out to your boy Kubiak. I forget which Kubiak. Clint Kubiak, yes. He's got that offense cooking without really putting pressure on Darnold to make throws, where if you saw Darnold last year with the Vikings, he really had to make those. He really had to make plays for the Vikings. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and Darnold, like we talk about that iconic Rams Seahawks game on Thursday night, you know, the crazy whatever. And Darnold was not playing well. And we're like, yep, big game Darnold. Here it is, pissing, shitting down his leg. But then he made some like really big throws that was like it very much aided the comeback into them winning.
Oh, it did.
The defense struggled a lot. Darnold made huge plays. So I think like he has it in him that if this game is tight and it's like they need to throw, I don't think it's like, oh, no shot Darnold's pulling this off. I do think that he's got it in him to.
I do think what you're going to see today is this is what I think this is what we're going to see today a little bit of is I expect the Rams to bracket the hell out of JSN a lot. But what did that do for in the Niner game? You saw
nothing.
Well, no, because they're so hyper-focused on JSN and opened up the ground game like it has the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
You saw Cooper Kupp, like...
have a nice day.
Had a nice game. I think it's going to help. It's going to open up if they go in 12 personnel. I think Elijah Arroyo and A.J. Barner can feast. And listen, you mentioned K9, Kenneth Walker. His issue's been help. It's not that he's not a good player, right? That's not the issue. He could feast today. He could have a big game today.
again. Like he had an incredible game against the Niners, and like
And then listen, man, what like listen, it is hard to win 3 straight road playoff games. Go ask the Washington Commanders.
yeah, no, absolutely, it is a tough task. You need some devil voodoo magic on your side. And to be honest with you, it feels like they haven't and they've still won. Like it not that it hasn't taken place. It feels like it's been going against them and they've still won the games. Like they're just Rams are just so due, man. Like the Bears pulled some such rabbit out of their ass and they were able to get the game to overtime and they were still able to outlast them playing like garbage all game. The Panthers went in the turtle shell or else they probably would have beat them. And that would have been crazy. The Panthers upset the Rams. But unfortunately, for the sake of, you know, what the Rams are going up against today, I don't think the Seahawks are going to be scared. I don't think they're going to get scared. I really think they're going to stay aggressive. They're going to stay
Let me.
getting
I
after
want
it.
to ask you a question about the Rams offense and about Stafford too. Do you think because of the volume levels they've had to deal with in Chicago last week, and
Oh, like
it's going to be
audible volume.
it's
Yes.
going to be way worse today for them? Do you think that's going to really hurt like McVay's off? Is he going to get too conservative? Like, okay, Matt's going to have a hard time, like maybe calling some hot routes, checking out of plays because of the volume. So we're going to stick with a lot of Kyron Williams.
I think it'll be flow of the game stuff because we saw the Rams air it out when they were, things got hairy against the Panthers and the Panthers were able to move the ball and stuff. But we watched him. He was watching how his defense was playing against the Bears and was watching the flow of that Bears game. And we joked about it. He went full Sirianni. Like he got scared and literally took the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hands in the fourth quarter. He attempted his last pass with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they had to drive to put the game away, and they ran the ball 3 straight times. That's alarming to me. The fact that you're not, you didn't trust Stafford in that spot to make a throw to convert a third down and go to the conference championship game. So if the game's tight and it's low scoring, I'd like to think McVay would have learned from his mistakes, but you're right. He might stay passive, might stay conservative, and might, stay in the turtle shell.
This is a 100% different game if this is played in Los Angeles at SoFi.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely different. Absolutely a different game. But unfortunately, it's not. And I just think there's too many things going Seattle's way. I think the bye week is huge. I think they looked almost perfect against San Francisco. You got the crowd going with the kickoff to get the game. It really set the tone, and that's exactly how the game went. And I think Seattle's going to be able to take care of business. They're only 2.5-point favorites. I think they definitely win by a little, at least a field goal. So give me Seattle minus 2.5, setting up my Super Bowl for a rematch of Super Bowl 49 of the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks.
I think there's the only possible combination for a non Super Bowl rematch would be Rams Broncos, right? They
Yeah,
never played each other in Super
yeah,
Bowl against
yeah,
before,
yeah.
right? So
Is that where you're going, John?
God, like man, I really want to take Seattle here, dude. I really want to take Seattle laying the 2.5. Uh, I
Does it
just
make you uncomfortable to pick Sam Darnold to go to the Super Bowl?
kind of yeah, like dude,
But
we
you're
would have
picking
a dude,
Jarrett Stidham?
bro. If we had a Sam Darnold, Jared Stidham Super Bowl QB
But
Super Bowl matchup, that would be an all time day on Twitter tomorrow. The Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar stands would
it would
just
it would honestly it would probably do them good that it's like, okay, we can, quarterback wins, we know how much the team matters if we're getting a Stidham Darnold Super Bowl. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like They're going to be like, wow, Stidham and Darnold getting a ring before all those guys even
It
sniff.
would have to be, dude. If I'm Nick Sirianni and I'm like looking at this, I might have to think to myself, like, dude, I, I legit might be in trouble because these are the four best front offices in the NFL, all in the in like the championship games, and arguably the best. I work for the best front office, and I'm on my couch
I might
watching
just be
this.
embarrassed. Anyway, where are you picking? Where are you picking with this game? Make your pick.
I'm gonna go Seattle, dude. I'm just gonna just do it. You know what? I'm taking
All right.
Seattle. I'm taking.
So I am taking the New England Patriots minus 3.5 and the Seattle Seahawks minus 2.5. John, you are taking the Denver Broncos plus 3.5 and the Seattle Seahawks also with me minus 2.5. So my Super Bowl Patriots Seahawks rematch of Super Bowl 49. Your Super Bowl rematch of Super Bowl 48 Broncos Seahawks. So that'll do it for today's show, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side of this blizzard with our
We'll
Super
catch you
Bowl
there, Sun
matchup.
Blizzard. I think I'm gonna have to. I'm kind of want to go outside, see how much snow we've gotten
I mean,
accumulated.
I'm looking out my window, and it is coming down pretty ferociously. I have to say, it is a lot of snow accumulating at the moment. So, all right, thanks everybody.
We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.